In this video, I'll show you how to make a save and load system in Godot. Now, I've iterated over a few different methods, but I find this system to be the most modular. You can literally save any property on any node, so let's get right into it. So we're going to be making a custom resource-based save system. So the first thing I want to do is make a new script in my file system. I'm going to name this MapSaveData and make sure it inherits from the resource class. Now, it's important that I give it a class name at the top. We can call this MapSaveData as well. And this script is very simple. It will just need a single export variable called data, which will be a dictionary, and we're going to initialize it as a blank dictionary. So this will be our container for all the save data of every node. We can leave this one and get to the next script, which will be the node that actually saves the data. So I'm going to make a new script in my file system once more. I'm going to call this one SaverNode. This one can inherit from node, but we'll create this. And just like before, it also needs a class name. I'll just call it SaverNode. Now this script is a bit longer, but I want to start out by adding the @tool annotation to the top. This is going to allow our code to run in the editor, which lets us do some really cool stuff with automatically populating a list of available properties to save. And I've never seen anyone do this in a tutorial, so stick around for that because I think it's really cool. But the first thing we want to do in this script is define a couple properties at the top. So first of all, I want a constant called SaverNode group. I'll just make this one a string, and I'm just going to call it saver_node. This will be the group name of nodes. I just like storing them as constants so that I don't have a bunch of strings floating around. So we're going to reference this later, but I will make a export variable next. This will be called properties to save, and I'm going to make this one an array of strings. We can initialize it as blank. And the last variable we need is a regular variable. I'm going to call it suggested properties, and it's also going to be an array of strings. Now, this is going to hold a list of all the available properties that we can select for the properties to save. By default, it's going to contain all the properties on the node, but if you want to take this tutorial a step further, you could maybe filter by properties that you don't want to appear in the list just to keep things a bit more easy to edit. So with that being said, we're going to define the ready function. And in this function, all we want to do is add this node to a group. So we're going to call add to group, and the group is obviously going to be our SaverNode group. Now underneath this, I'm going to define a new function called getSaveDictionary. This will not require any arguments, and it will return a dictionary. And this is going to be the bulk of our save system. So the idea is our map is going to iterate through all of these saver nodes and try to get a saved dictionary from them. The dictionary will hold all the properties that we're saving on a node and the values associated with those, of course, and just return it back so that we can insert them all into one big save file. So how this will work is we first need to get the parent node. So I'm going to say var parent equals get_parent. I'll then make a variable for the node data, and I'll set this to a blank dictionary. I then want to loop through all the properties that we're trying to save. So I'll say for prop in properties to save, and I might as well add a debug line. So maybe I'll say saving property and give it prop. But for the main part of this function, I just want to say if prop in parent, which means if the parent even has the property, then we're going to call node data access at the property key and set it equal to parent.get, and we want to get prop from the parent, which will return the value. Now finally, once our data is all set up for this node, I can simply return node data, and later on from the map saver, this will get inserted into one file. We'll next do a similar function for actually loading the data. So I'm going to make a new function, and I'm going to call this one apply save dictionary. This one will require the node data, which is a dictionary, and this function can return void. But in order to apply any loaded data back to the node, we want to do a similar thing. So I will say var parent to get our parent again, and we'll use the getParent function. Then I'm going to loop through all the properties in our node data. So I'll say for prop in node data. Again, this is the data that we're loading onto the node. I'll say if prop in parent, once again, just to verify things. And if we can't apply the property, I will say parent.set. We're going to be setting property, and the value is going to be node data at property. So this will apply the value to the variable or the property. So this script is almost complete. We're going to see kind of what it does really quick. So how this would work is, let's say I wanted to save a couple properties on my sprite here. I wanted to save the position, the scale, the modulation. I would simply add a new node as a child of my sprite. It would be a saver node. And with the saver node selected, you'll see I get this properties to save array in the inspector. Clicking on this allows me to add properties. So I could say, all right, I want to save the modulation, which is called the modulate property. Maybe I want to save the global position. And you can see there's an issue with this. I have to manually type all these properties out, which means I have a ton of strings floating around. and this is where you're prone to typos. So nobody wants to go around typing out all the properties they want to save on every node. It would be a lot nicer if we had a list that we could just select from. And that's what I want to create here. And this is the thing that I have never seen anyone do. It's kind of stemming from a recent video I did. I'll put the card there, but this is where it gets a little complex. So if you don't understand this part, maybe watch that video or feel free to skip it. Skipping this section will not affect the tutorial at all, so you can skip to the next timestamp. But in my opinion, this is where it gets really cool. So because we've made this script a tool, we can use the validate property function, and I'm going to add that right above my other two functions here. So let me clean this up a little. I'll put it right here. So we'll say func_validate property. Now with the validate property, I can essentially change the behavior of an exported property. And the property that we want to change the behavior of is our properties to save array. So I'm going to say if property, which is a dictionary .name equals our properties array variable, then we're going to pass for now, but we want to generate a list of all the properties on this node. And to do that, I'm going to be using my suggested properties array that I made earlier. So I'm going to make one more function in here, kind of make some space. I'm going to call this function update property list. It can return void. And the goal of this function is to refresh and get all the properties from our parent node. So I'm going to first get the parent. We'll set it equal to the getParent function. Now, if we don't have a parent, I guess I could put that here. If not parent, we'll just return early. But first and foremost, I just want to call the clear function on my suggested properties. So we have a blank array that we're working with. And then I'm going to define a new variable called allProps. And I can set this to parent.getPropertyList, which will return a list of all the properties on this object. Now, the problem is this gets every property. So again, if you want to take this tutorial a little bit further, this is where you would filter the list. So you could say, I don't know, maybe properties that start with an underscore or properties that exist on the object class or something super low level. You would just remove them from all properties. So I'm going to keep it as is right now, but I'm going to type it as a loop so that if you want to edit this, this will be a little easier to filter by. So we could say something like for p in all props var property name equals p.name, and then we would just say suggested properties append and append p name. So we now have a list of all the properties on the parent node. And at the end of this function, I want to make sure to call the notify property list changed function. And this will internally tell Godot that we need to refresh the properties, which we'll call this validate property function. And then this is where the black magic just kind of goes crazy. So inside of here, I'm checking if my property name is properties to save. If that's the case, I'm going to override a couple things. So first, I'm going to make a new options variable, and I'm going to set this equal to a comma.join. And we're going to join all the suggested properties together. It's just so that the format matches the enum format for overriding properties like this. Secondly, we want to set property.hint equal to property hint type string. And finally, I'm going to call property.hint string equals, and I'm going to copy this one from my notes because I don't want to type it out. But let me zoom out here a little. I'm setting the hint string equal to a kind of hard to read string, but it's the type string / the property hint enum, and then a colon and the options. And this is just how we have to format it in order to override the contents of an array to be a dynamically generated enum, which is completely insane. I've never seen anyone do this. Again, if you want to learn more about this stuff, I have a whole video on it. But before we test this, I want to go to the ready function quick and just add one line here. We're going to say if engine.isEditor hint. And if that's the case, we're going to just manually call update property list. Now we're only doing this on ready. So if you feel like you're going to be swapping the position of SaverNodes, it might be a good idea to add a tool button that also like manually calls this function. But we now have some incredible capabilities. So if I reload my save scene and select my SaverNode, you can see that we still have the list. But if I go to add something to this, it's a drop-down list. And if I click on this, it's going to be a list of all the properties on the parent, which is absolutely insane. So you now do not have to type these in. You don't have to worry about string names. It's as easy as finding the property in here, which honestly isn't that easy, but like I can select global position. It adds it right there. I don't need to worry about typos. Maybe I want to select the global rotation as well. A lot more powerful than typing it as strings. So that's it for the SaverNode. Now moving on to the final part, which is our map. So I already have a map script, and this is a script that's attached to the root node of my scene. This is extremely important. The script has to be on your root node of every single level. And I would actually suggest just making this script its own class. So I'm going to type class name map extends from node. If I was ever to make a new map, I would always make sure it extends from the map class. It's a map type just so that we always get save load capabilities. Now, there are a few requirements for the map class. I'll kind of be mentioning them as I go along, but the first thing I always like to set up is an enum with all of your map IDs. So for this, I like to have an empty entry, and from here you would have a separate entry for every single map in your game. So if I were to have my first map, I might call it map 1. This would have an ID of 1. You can obviously get creative. So like, let's say I had a forest map, I would say this is map 2. The names of the keys don't matter. The only thing that matters is that they all have unique integers assigned to them. We're going to be using the integers to define specific save files to load for each map, so they cannot have overlapping integers, which is why I recommend manually typing out the values of every enum entry. If you don't know how enums work, I also have a whole video on that. But just to preface, we need some sort of map ID system for the save files to work. Now we're also going to make a constant which will store the path that we want to save our save files. So I'm going to call this map saves folder. It will be a string, and I'm going to set it equal to user : / map _ saves /. Now, if you aren't familiar with user versus the res path, user means that this folder is going to be on our actual computer, which is good for save files. And as a subfolder of that, we're obviously going to put it in its own dedicated map saves folder. Really quick, if you ever need to access this folder, go to project settings and click on open user data folder. We're going to do that in a second here. But aside from these two properties, there's one more we have to set up. So I'm going to make an export variable, and I'm going to call it map ID. This will be the specific ID of the current map. So after I make this, I want to make sure to select my current map, and instead of having the ID as none, I want to set it to map 1. So make sure to do this on all your future levels. Now this script isn't as long as the previous one, so we'll start out by defining the ready function. Inside of here, I want to first make sure our folder exists. So I'm going to call the dir access.make dir absolute and give it my map saves folder constant. This will just make sure our map saves folder is created. I'm also going to define one new function called get map save file path. It's going to return a string. I cannot type. And this function will just say return map saves folder plus string of, and for here, I'll put map _ save, which will be the prefix to all my save files. And then I'll give it the map ID, which needs to be included in the save file name so that they're all unique. And then I'm going to add the .tres extension to the file name. Now, one last important note. TRES stands for an uncompressed resource in Godot. So I'm doing this for debugging purposes so that I can open up the save file and check that my properties actually were saved. If you want your file to be like encrypted, it's not actually encrypted, but it's basically impossible for like 99% of users to edit, you would save this as an RES instead. So that's completely fine to swap out if you want to do it that way. I'm just doing TRES for the sake of the tutorial. Now, the two main functions we need, one is called SaveMapData, which will just be a regular function, return void. The first thing we want to do is make a new save. So I'm going to say var new save. We're going to set it equal to MapSaveData.new. I'm then going to loop through all the saver nodes in my scene. So I can say for saver and statically type this as a saver node in get _ tree dot get nodes in group. And this is where making that group constant kind of comes into play. So here the group is going to be called SaverNode dot SaverNode group. This is a bit safer than doing just a string. Now the goal is for every saver, we're getting the path to it and using the path as a key to a dictionary and putting all of that node's parent node properties in a dictionary inside of that. So I first need to get the path to this specific saver node. So I'm going to make a new variable called node path, and we can set this one equal to get path to. We're going to get the path to the saver node. Now after this, I can call new save.data, which is our data dictionary in the save file if you don't remember, access this at the node path key, and set this equal to saver.getSaveDictionary, which will give us the properties of that save node's parent node. Now after my for loop, I want to call resource saver.save, and we're going to save the new save file, and the path will just be the get map save file path. I'm also just going to add a print statement for debugging in case you guys want to do this, just to know that your system's working. So this last function will be called load map data. This one can return void as well. And the first thing we want to do here, which is pretty important, we want to check if not file access.file exists. The file we're checking for is obviously get map save file path. So if our save file doesn't exist, we want to just return exit out of this function. If it does exist, we're going to load it and apply the data. So here I'm going to do another debugging line, just say that we're loading the data from this path, but I'll make a variable to store the loaded save resource. I'll set it equal to resource loader this time, dot load. We're going to pass in the get map save file path once again, and I can load it as a map save data. That way we get static typing here. Now, once we've loaded the resource, I want to iterate through all the objects and apply their data. So I'm going to say for path in loaded save dot data. We're going to make a new variable for the saver node that we're looking at, and I can set this equal to the get node or null function, give it the path. Now on that saver node, I first just want to check if it exists. So we can say if saver node, and if it exists, we can call SaverNode dot apply save dictionary, and the data that we want to apply is our loaded save dot data at path. And this should correctly load our data back onto the object. Now, using the save and load functions in the ready function is the final step. So when we're ready, after we make sure that the map saves folder exists, I want to call load map data first. This will automatically just not load data if data doesn't exist. And after we've loaded it or not loaded it, we want to call save map data. And this is all you need to do. So our system should work from here. If I switch back to 2D view, and I make sure that my map has map1 as the ID, and I run this scene, you can see that we are saving property global position, saving global rotation, and it says that we saved map data to user mapsaves mapsaved_1.tres. So again, if I go to project settings and open user data folder, I will now have this map saves folder on my computer. Inside of here, I have map_save_1. If I open this up in something like VS Code, you can see that I have a few properties. We have all the exposed data, like the global position, global rotation, all that fun stuff. Once again, you can read all that data because it's a TRES. If I wanted to encrypt that data, I would just swap this out to an RES, which I'm sure most of you already did. So now that we have a save file, it's going to load from that instead. So if I did something like maybe rotated this node, I know that the rotation is being saved for this node. So if I load this back, it should load my previous state, which will rotate the node back to 0 degrees. Let's look at one more example quick. So if I wanted to save the color, I would add a new property to my node saver. Select, I should have made a search system for the scroll container, but select the modulate property, run this, it's going to save the modulation of the node now. And if I go back, reset the modulation, you can see that we should load back and it'll modulate it back. So that's how you would use the save system. I like this system because it's modular and it keeps your save files small, keeps them split up, and it's also very easy to work with. Now, I wanted to mention a few really important things before closing the video. So first of all, I know a lot of people are going to be complaining that I use custom resources for save files. Custom resources are technically dangerous because you can execute code from them when a file is loaded from. Now, I've already made videos and talked about this a ton, but I don't see it as an issue unless your players are somehow sharing save files. But if your players aren't sharing files, then you don't really need to worry about this. And if someone downloads a sketchy save file off the internet anyways, then it's kind of on them. So I think the system is completely fine for like 99.99999% of games. You don't really have to worry about the security issue because it's not really a big deal. Now, on top of that, I didn't cover actually saving the game manually, and that's because game saving is handled differently for each game. So how I'd recommend doing it is somewhere in your game, maybe whenever you leave a map or start a battle from a map or something along those lines, you would just want to get access to your map node and call this save map data function. This is really the only thing you need to call, and this will save the state of your game. A quick tip for how I would actually get access to the map is maybe using a static variable called something like current map, which would be of type map. I forgot to add the var keyword. Because this is a static, in my ready function, I could say whenever we make a new map, current map is equal to self. And then from anywhere in your game, you could type something like map.currentMap.save map data. This line would be how you save your game. So obviously this changes from project to project, but that's how you do that. But yeah, that's it for the video. So quick shout out to all the channel supporters. Huge thanks especially to Pixies Game Dev, Dalvarax, Jar Larks, Randall Lassini, and Silicon Spoon Games. All your support really means a lot and it helps the channel out a ton. If you want to support the channel, the links are in the description. And also I'm releasing a game on Steam soon, so if you want to wishlist it, or if the game's already live, go check it out. It's called Evor. I'll leave the link in the description as well. But I hope you got through the video and learned something new. If you have any questions or concerns, I guess, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear if you guys have any thoughts for improving the system. But yeah, if you want to watch other Godot tutorials and content, I have a lot of videos. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And I hope you have a great week, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.